Welcome to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Jared Mello. I'm also the shepherd of black sheep. We've got a pretty good flock of black sheep here going too. But in today's live stream, I want to go over what happens when the narcissist loses control. And one of the more popular times this happens is during a breakup, or maybe someone wants to get divorced from a narcissist, or maybe someone wants to take parental rights away from the narcissist, and rightfully so, a lot of times, by the way. But what happens in these cases? And this is the big thing. This is one of the most dangerous times. If you're trying to break up with a narcissist, there's a lot of violence that could possibly occur. They could really lose their minds and do all sorts of crazy things. And so you have to take every precaution possible. And what does that mean? It means you have to make a plan to leave. And when you make a plan to leave, you should notify your friends, family, maybe even law enforcement sometimes. And granted, if the person in your life who is toxic is also a part of law enforcement, depending on where you are, law enforcement might not be that good for you because they're not going to be able to help. They're going to be having their buddies back, unfortunately. And you might think, well, shouldn't they have the laws back? You would hope so, but that's not entirely what happens a lot of times. If a cop is a narcissist, then the cop buddies have his back, as does the rest of the justice system too, for that matter. Sometimes the lawyers, sometimes the judges, and that causes a whole boatload of issues. But part of making a plan is at the least trying to notify your friends and family members about what's going on. They also recommend having a to-go bag too, just in case you need to escape before you can truly escape. And when you do that, you want to make sure you have any necessities you need for you and your kids if you have them. Maybe you need medicine. Maybe you need supplements. Maybe you have other kinds of things for medical purposes that you need. Make sure you have those things available too, because if you don't, you could be left without them if you have to leave in an emergency. And these are things that definitely happen. We're not just saying these things. These things absolutely do occur, and there's something you have to watch out for. But what does happen when the narcissist loses control? Well, to a narcissist, when they lose control, this can give them a narcissistic injury. It might even give them a narcissistic collapse. And what this means is they are deeply wounded because they are hypersensitive to criticism and perceived criticism, and they're hypersensitive to a loss of control. And when this happens, they get deeply angry, or they might try to beg and plead. There's really no limit to what they might do, but it can really be out of control. And it's really scary for the person that it happens to. It's someone that I wouldn't wish this upon anybody because they might try to blow up your phone constantly. They might try to call your friends and family members. They might try to stalk you at your job. They might try to stalk you at your home. They might use emotional blackmail. That's when they might threaten to harm themselves unless you take them back. They might guilt trip you and say something like, no one's going to treat you the way I do. You don't know how lucky you are to have me. Most people, most partners wouldn't do everything that I'm doing. And they're really just trying to guilt trip you. They're trying to make sure that you feel as uncomfortable as possible leaving. That's their goal. Hey there, Alex. We're talking about what happens if a narcissist loses control. And one of the scariest times this happens, of course, is during a breakup. And you have to have that plan ready too, because sometimes what happens is the narcissist tries to turn it into a big circular debate. They'll try to turn your boundaries into a debate, or they'll try to turn the breakup into a negotiation. And people get sucked in sometimes. They might try to jade, justify, argue, defend, or explain. Or they might continue to try to explain themselves or justify their decision. And it's as if they're a lawyer of sorts. They have to make their case. This is why it's allowed for me to break up. Because this is what narcissists will do. They are experts at making it seem like you need to explain yourself to them. And you have to get their approval to do whatever it is you want to do. And let me tell you, that is absolutely BS. But that's just how they frame it. They frame things in a way where you feel the need sometimes to get them to give you a thumbs up. Okay, it's okay for you to break up with me. But of course, it's a trap because no matter what you do, it's not going to be okay. No matter how well you state your case, they're not going to let it happen. They're going to try to keep on sucking you in until you change your mind. And that's why I tell people who are trying to break up with the narcissist, besides being safe about it, you have to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. You don't need to be getting sucked into any hour-long conversations because all it takes is the first 5 minutes, and that's it. Anything more than that, and you're just going round and round in circles because they're just going to keep on trying to test you for weakness. They're going to test you to see how strong your resolve is to stay in the breakup. How strong is your resolve to actually break up with them and leave? And they're banking on you being a people pleaser. They're banking on you feeling guilty about it. They're banking on you maybe even being intimidated enough or uncomfortable enough so that you're just not okay saying no to them. That's what their goal is. Their goal is to have that scenario. And for the people that aren't as assertive, for the people that struggle with people pleasing, for the people that aren't as comfortable saying no and sticking to it, this can be a very uncomfortable experience. And overall, just the fact that they're blowing up your phone so much, that is really uncomfortable as well. And it's just not something that I would want anyone to go through for that matter. But it's something that I absolutely see. And it's not pleasant. And it is dangerous, though, too, because there's no limit to what they might do. There is no limit to who they might reach out to. There's no limit to what they might say. And they can be absolutely relentless because it's not about you. That's the other thing that gets in the way for people. Some people might think, well, they act like they really care and love me. They wouldn't be doing all of this unless they did. But that's the thing. It's not about you. It's more about them and their selfish need to not lose control. And you will know this because once they get what they want again and they regain control, that version of them is gone. It's not going to be there very long because that version of them is just a different version of them. It's the version of them that's being as manipulative as possible in order to get their way. And don't mistake that version of them for the real them. And this holds true for Hoover attempts too, because sometimes maybe the narcissist is the one that discards you, and they're the ones that break up first. But then something goes wrong with that source of supply. So they try to circle back around. And if you make the mistake of taking them back when they try to Hoover you, almost always what happens is the cycle of abuse just repeats: love bombing, devaluing, discarding, except the love bombing is even shorter than it ever was. And then the devaluing and discard is even more intense and unpleasant. But this is what happens. And also, the narcissist will get resentful as well. If they have to be nice to you so that they don't lose control of you, they will be resentful that they even had to do that to begin with. And when they become resentful that they had to be nice, they will make sure they punish you more severely later. And this is something I've seen happen many times where they'll act one way when they're trying to Hoover you or love bomb you or make sure that you don't break up with them or make sure that they don't lose control of you. But then the second that they get their way, that version of them goes away. And they get the version of them that was how they were before. And that was the version that you wanted to break up with anyway. But that's how you know it's all just an act. But it's conscious and deliberate as well. It is not something that they're just, oh, this is a defense mechanism. I can't help myself but to do this. No, it's very deliberate. It's very intentional. They know what they're doing. They're just trying to do anything they can to get what they want. And the more I listen to them, some of these self-aware narcissist types, the more I think, you know what, Angela, how are you? I think it's probably not the best to listen to some of them because if you listen to them too long, they really try to suck people in and say, oh, we're just doing these things for this noble reason, or we're just in so much pain we can't help ourselves, or we're so insecure, or we're so fill in the blank. And honestly, a lot of that's ridiculous. And I like what that guy Christian said. And he had said, The way to heal, if you're a narcissist, is not to get hundreds of thousands to millions of followers online to be feeding yourself narcissistic supply. The way to heal is to try to right the wrongs of the people that you've hurt and to do it on your own, not just to be getting attention, admiration, and acknowledgement. That's the way to go. Kevin, how are you? Kevin says, I'm a diehard communist, but I just got sick and tired of our chairman of ACP right now on Kick. His name is Infrared and has Aldean. He's a complete narcissist, and he jokes at all, calling his group of cult yelling. That's where I had the problem. Communists need to be strong, but not crazy and angry. What does ACP stand for? Oh, and Angela, how are you, by the way? But you definitely have to watch out for them, because when a narcissist has lost control, that is when they're the most dangerous. That is when they're the most capable of anything. And unfortunately, this is where some really violent assaults or even deaths can occur, because rather than lose control of you, sometimes they would rather have you be dead. And unfortunately, it's definitely something to take precautions about, because you just never know. You never know which version of them you're going to get. You don't know if the person you're with, are they capable of that? I don't know. Ellie, how are you? I'm glad to hear that, Angela. And it's just one of those things. It's a very dangerous time. And part of the reason this is on my mind now is because I have a friend who is trying to break up with someone. I don't know if they're a full-blown narcissist or not, but I'm hearing what's going on, and it's not good. He's doing all these tactics that I'm talking about. No one's going to treat you the way I do. You're lucky to have me. Most guys aren't going to be like me. And he's trying to guilt trip her. And then he'll use some of these condescending words like, oh, this is sad that you're not going to give me a chance. Please just give me a chance. Begging and pleading, please, I'll do anything. I guess this is just over to you. And over the while, message after message after message after message, and phone call after phone call after phone call. And the girl's busy talking with other people or even her family. And he's demanding, you need to step out right now and talk to me. You need to tell your mom and dad, you need to come out and talk to me right now. And it's just stressful for me to even hear. It's like, dude, relax. And I would not do well with that at all, because I don't do well with being controlled. Oh, American Communist Party. The only thing closest to real Communist Party, not someone who backs up Democrats. I mean, Democrats are pretty much corporate Democrats in America, and many of them are Israel first. I'm going to have to sleep on this because I backed up the guy for 4 years. I just couldn't take the yelling. Thought he was maturing. Well, unfortunately, in politics, regardless of political affiliation, narcissists and Machiavellian people, they are rampant in those spaces because it's about power. Ellie says, I'm cleaning and feel better than yesterday. Well, that's good. I'm doing well. I was getting agitated earlier, though, because my boom pole like kind of snapped at the end of it. And so I've had to rig it. I've had to rig it with this black electrical tape. And I've had to use a bigger wand to connect the things. And it's just annoying. But it's working. And that's really what matters. Because it's not affecting the microphone. It's just affecting how I hook it up. Let's see. Kevin says, good thing I've been studying narcissism for about the same amount of time. You want to find good examples of communism, you're going to have to leave the USA. Where would you say is a good example of communism? I'm dying in about 2 months. I'm giving up with this dying. I think you said that before. What did you mean when you said that? Boom. Boom pole, Ellie. BOOM. Angela says, if the self-aware narcissists are telling people to escape from the narcissists, they are giving good advice. Well, they say one thing, and then sometimes their actions say another. Because what they do is they try to give you a good perspective where almost you start feeling bad for them. Oh, Poor narcissist. Poor narcissist can't have friends. Poor narcissist can't keep relationships. Poor narcissist is in a woe's me Eeyore mode. But I don't always think that's accurate. I think some of that is playing the victim. I think some of that is image management. And then most of them are also blaming trauma. They're not talking about genetics. They're talking about learned experiences. They say, well, I'm only this way because my parents treated me this way. I'm only this way because I had to do this in order to survive in my upbringing. And it's like, really? Is that really what it is? Or is there a fairly big genetic component in there too? And you have a different brain. And then, yeah, sure, you might have been traumatized as well, but it sounds so much like they're blaming it. Oh, I'm this way because of this. It's like, dude, maybe if you spent more time trying to improve your behavior as opposed to rationalizing your behavior, you would be better. But there's a reason why they're not, because that's not where the money is. The money isn't really in improving. The money is in commiserating. The money is in emphasizing how bad it is for them and how we need to work on the stigma of NPD. And I'll always say, and the same thing holds true for addiction. If you're hurting people with your addiction, I mean, there should be some stigma involved with that. People understand now that a lot of people have had problems with drugs and alcohol, and it doesn't automatically make you a bad person. But it's also true that a lot of people who struggle with drugs and alcohol do some pretty crappy things. Both of those things can be true. And I think it's very similar with narcissism, and that's why I asked that question with Dr. Salerno, are all narcissists abusive? And the bottom line was, he said, by definition, a narcissistic adaptation is absolutely abusive because at the bare minimum, it's going to be invalidating. At the bare minimum, their impaired empathy is going to show up in a certain way, and that certain way is going to be hurtful. And I also wanted to make the clarification, there's a difference between them abusing nobody and then abusing just certain people. But they're always a narcissist. That narcissism is always on. It just doesn't show up as maybe abusive to every person, or maybe some people don't perceive it as that, but then the other person will. And that's something we went over too. Yes, boom poll. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Kevin. Stage 4. That's no good. What makes you realize that it takes something like that sometimes to realize life is finite. We don't know how much time we got. And I bet you your mindset shifted about a bunch of things when you figured that out. I'd be curious how your mindset did shift and what it made you to think of differently and do differently. Both is true of what, Alex? Yeah, and they can appear fairly demonic. I don't know if it's exactly that, but there's certainly some dark entities. There's some dark energy at the very least. True, they are not accountable and outsource blame. Yep, that's their motto. Externalize the blame because it can't be me. It's when they keep using you as an excuse. Yes. Angela says, I'm against anybody who is supporting narcissists. For example, there is a fake expert on YouTube who says that we should feel compassion for narcissists because they had an abusive childhood. Who's the one who said that? That's what I'd be curious about. Now, there's certain professionals that they give some very charitable interpretations. I wouldn't say Dr. Salerno is one of them. But I think Dr. Mark Ettinson might be one of them. He gives some very charitable interpretations of some of their behaviors. And if you want to check it out, I have interviewed him a little over a year ago now. But him and Dr. Salerno, they disagree with some things. One thing they disagree on is Mark Ettinson thinks that, like Beast from Beauty and the Beast, is more of a covert narcissist. And Gaston is the grandiose. Dr. Salerno agrees that Gaston is a grandiose narcissist, but he wouldn't call the Beast a covert narcissist. He'd said it might just be a regular narcissist who is experiencing collapse because of that tragic event, right? He turned into a beast. Life is so precious, I didn't have a clue. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is what it takes a lot of times, right? It takes something earth-shattering like that to really get to that next perspective sometimes, unfortunately. When you spend a lot of time, a lot of your life thinking, judge communism by these clowns, but don't be fooled by the fakes either. Angela says, it's a guy who says that hypnotherapy can cure any narcissist. He is a fake relationship expert. Yeah, I'd be very skeptical of any hypnotherapy curing a narcissist. I mean, I'm all into mindset. I'm all into neuroplasticity, but I don't know. It still has its limits, in my opinion. It still has its limits. That's what I would say. And I've seen some of the people who say stuff like that. There's people that, or one of the new ones is the spiritual narcissist types will say, oh, to the degree that you see toxic traits in anyone else, you have it to the same degree yourself. It's like, that's just a good way to flip the script there. Kevin says, I would excuse any narcissist that admitted who they were and regretted it without blaming anybody, including parents. And that's a hard task for them because it's going to be very difficult for them to not blame. I agree with you there, Ellie. Precious is one of the best mindsets to have. I'm glad I'm not looking for more experts. I don't think I've seen them. I mean, who do you all listen to besides me? I mean, I listen to Dr. Salerno. A Richard Grannon video actually popped up for me today. And guess what he was talking about? He was talking about the brain scans that our friend of the show, Dr. Salerno, was talking about. Sorry, I came in so upset, but the party meant so much to me. Not for now, however. No, I mean, that's understandable. If you put your heart and soul in something, you're going to be passionate about it. And sometimes that means you're going to be emotional. And that's not always a problem. Ellie's, I think we can make a lot of pain in life for ourselves, but only if we know what we're doing, we can stop. Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I believe some of the experts are specialists in a way. Yeah. I was very shocked. It's a recent diagnosis, extremely aggressive, and I'm really weak. So, Game Lion, welcome. I've interviewed two of them. I've interviewed Salerno and Dr. Nadine. I have not spoken to Dr. Carey. She's got a pretty good YouTube channel now too. And I think she is on the autistic spectrum. Don't quote me on that though. So that could be an interesting element that she's got going on. Kevin says, I don't trust hypnotherapists at all. One of them talked to my kids without permission. That's illegal. I tried to get entered into court and got thrown out. She still doesn't talk to me. Not too good. Not too good there. I wouldn't like that either. Yeah, I thought so. I mean, I got a version of it too, so I don't judge that at all. Ellie says, Kevin, well said. Having that stop switch enabled when needed is precious. Yes. Angela says that fate expert on YouTube has videos about how anybody can cure toxic shame with hypnotherapy. And he said that we should feel compassion and give a hug to narcissists. Yeah. I mean, why though? Why? Like, that's just going to hurt people. That's going to give people the desire to give them a second chance and then just get mistreated even more. Like, that's just not going to be good. Like, if they're a full-blown narcissist, it's not going to get better unless they do a lot of work on themselves. And even then, they're not doing the work. If they're not doing the work, you can't expect anything to change. The kids I won custody of for later kidnapped. Not good. Oh, wow. Start pouring out there. Kevin says, I listened to Sam Vaknin, self admitted he even tries to show a little remorse. Yeah, he can try. I mean, I don't think anyone really knows the real Sam Vaknin. He has his persona, but unless you live with him, it's hard to know what he's like. But that's true for everybody. You know what you see online, but that doesn't mean that's who they really are. It's hard to say sometimes. Definitely hard to say. Cognitive remorse. Yes, I would agree with that, Ellie. Self respect means a lot, and I never learned that. Now, self respect does mean a lot. That's why the name of this channel is The Wizard of Radical Self Respect, because it's the pillar, it's the first thing. And when you got that first thing down, other things can go well too. Angela says the fake expert said that everybody has part of the blame in relationships and we should put ourselves in the narcissist's shoes. Yeah, horrible advice. Horrible advice that's going to keep people stuck in a trauma bond longer. You should tell me the name if you know. We'll roast them. I can do a video about him, roasting him. How about that? And I'll give him a piece of my mind. Because that's what I might start doing more of. People love seeing people get called out. And so I might start doing more of that. I would almost not recommend relationships for the danger of finding a narcissist and being fooled. Well, once you have radical self-respect and you know what the tactics look like and you know covert narcissism, grandiose narcissism, you can try. Because, I mean, love and romantic relationships, sex, that's a big part of life. It's a big element to completely give up on. I totally understand why some people would, but I think if you're armored and you've been empowered, you can figure it out. And shoes, ew. Yeah, I would. That's what the Dr. Salerno and I have always said. That's one of the terrible suggestions a therapist might say. Oh, got to put yourself in their shoes because they've been so traumatized. You just don't know what they've been through. They've been so abused. It's like, well, and you don't even know that because you can't take what a narcissist says at face value. They lie. And a lot of times they exaggerate their victimhood while simultaneously downplaying how poorly they treat people in the present. And unless a therapist knows that's a possibility, I wouldn't know if they're doing their due diligence there. But a lot of them say that, oh, I was treated this way. And I wonder what some of the self-aware narcissists, okay, what do your parents say? I wonder what your parents would have to say. And maybe they would say, well, my kid was a terror. Maybe that's what they would say. You don't know. Yeah, that's awful advice. Yes. Correct, Alex. Correct. Kevin, how old are you, if you don't not mind me asking? Yeah, I'll be curious that too. I mean, no matter how old you are, it's never good to be getting late stage cancer. That's for sure. Definitely not. Did you do a COVID test, Ellie? Or did you figure out what it was? Did you gargle some salt water? Or the strep throat? Yeah, and Angela, if you figure out the name, I'll do some screen share of him one of the next times, or her, the next times I go live. 65. So a little bit older than my dad. My dad's 64. Just remembered it was the same age as my mother. She probably went through more pain than the pancreatic cancer. That's a friend of mine last night that I ran into. We were talking about that because pancreatic cancer is one of those death sentence cancers, I think. Because even some stage 4, you can turn it around sometimes, but pancreatic, no. Any benefit from a narcissist is mostly a delusion. True. No COVID test. Did raw honey, cough drops. We'll do salt rinse too. There you go. At least it's not COVID. I'm not even sure what the protocol is anymore for COVID. The name of the fake expert. Drum roll, please. Mattis Handyazar. I'll write him down. Is he on YouTube, Instagram, or where is he? So Mattis. I'm a Pisces myself. How about you? There you go. Libra. So I don't know much about Libra. YouTube and Instagram. Yeah, I'll check them out. I've had some run-ins with some of these Instagram influencers, and I've ripped them a new one sometimes. What's the other one? Someone was saying everyone's narcissistic or everyone's a narcissist, and I don't buy that. Certainly don't buy that. So I don't know. Ellie will have an answer for that, but I don't. Huge hugs to narcissists. I mean, Dr. Mark Ettinson's given huge hugs to narcissists too, for that matter. But hey, I would judge it by the results. Hey, if it can get results for them, who are the rest of us to say? But if it's just for the victims of them to be giving them hugs, no. It's one thing if he's exclusively talking to the narcissist, like, okay, this is what you need to do. But that's not what I see them do. More often, what I see the narcissistic people do is they just emphasize how bad it is, and they emphasize how things go wrong for them. And it's not really about, oh, this is what I do better now. Not really. The narcissism distorts everything, in my experience. No, that's good. I only know about Scorpios. I know Scorpios because a lot of them are very strong-willed, but I don't know much about else. I don't know any of the signs, what they mean. Pisces people, a lot of them are very artistic and creative. I know that. But that's it. That's really all I know. I don't know that much about astrology. A little more about wizardry. I know more about wizardry. I'm only dying 10 years earlier than average, and I'm not starving in Gaza. Yeah, well, that's true. Gaza is not a good place right now to be living. Wizardry. I've created wizardry with a crystal ball. I don't really do scrying. I think that's what it's called. I don't really do that. But wizardry is the religion of Jared. Leo is loyal. I do believe in a God. I just don't believe in a specific religion's God. They call that being an omnist. So I think there's truth in every religion, but almost every religion loses me when they all think that their way is the one right way. I don't really. That's where I struggle. I heard that 74 is the halfway point in life, I heard, or is the life expectancy. So that means 37 is the 50% point. People think it's like, oh, 40 to 45. It's like, nah, you don't have nearly as much time as you think. No, none of us do, including me. And none of us know. We don't know what our last day is going to be. We could be struck by lightning. You can get into a car accident. You can get stage 4 cancer. You can have some other tragedy happen. Those are all possibilities. Melissa, how are you? Well said. I don't really think so, Angela, but some people do. I think there are some people that do, like some of the fortune tellers. Some of them say some accurate things. I don't know how they do it. I don't think if they're reading astrology or tarot cards to do it. I think they pick up on other things, and then sometimes they make educated guesses. Now, there is really no such thing as wizardry. I just call it my pattern, like my routine. I consider wizardry, and so I have my wands and my affirmations, and I do a supplementation. That's my definition of wizardry, but it's not a common practiced definition of wizardry. It's a definition of it I made up myself, which is unique. It's unique to me. Kevin says, if you want loyalty and a good friend, I recommend horses if you have some money or live in the Midwest. Horses are great animals. That and dogs. Dogs can be great animals too. Remember, the man's best friend. Man's best friend. They don't call him that for nothing. I used to work with somebody that was a dog whisperer, and I might have her on the channel if any of you are interested here, by the way. She has a good dog behaviorist business. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of money to be made in being a dog whisperer. And she would train dogs to be best in show. And I was just in touch with her the other day. What's the price to see how many single people in the leading countries, 120 million in the USA? How many single people what? Jan says, narcs are part of a cult, same behavior, demons, dark, no soul. And I think I mentioned this the other day. I think a lot of addictions are a demonic entity, whether it's a drug addiction, gambling, fill in the blank. Melissa says, Kevin, eternity is a real place. Those in Christ do not die. They just cross over. I can see that. Bring Dog Whisperer, please, to your channel. Oh, you would like to see her, Ellie? Her name is Janice Wolf. Aptly named Janice Wolf, if you ask me. Do you think that some music and lyrics come from the devil? Some music carries a dark energy to it, and some might be inspired by a dark energy, but I don't know if it's directly related. My mother grew up in Scranton, and she was an angel. She had a father that played in the local band when Jenny Dorsey came through. I'm Johnny Cash. I've been everywhere, currently Nevada, probably by accident. Yes, Dog Whisperer. Yeah, she's going to come on. So I got her coming on. A friend of mine who just overcame cancer, actually. I think she had breast cancer. I forget which cancer she had, but it changed her outlook. And she also had a narcissistic family. Then there's a younger girl who I think is 18 who I might interview. She does something like very unique where I think she makes things and she's created her own business. And I think that's pretty cool because for the new generation here, work isn't going to look the same for them. It's going to be a little bit different. And I think it's helpful to know what some of the new options are going to be. Montana, Florida, many thoughts of leaving the country. I don't blame you. Melissa, I saw that I've long believed to go somewhere. Yes, that's good. I'm glad you have faith. But you would like to see her, Melissa, huh? Because I was on the fence about it because it's like if someone's 18, it's like, what are people going to care? Would they find it interesting? Would they think it's creepy? I don't know. But if people are interested, I'll have her. It's not going to be in person or anything. It'd just be a remote interview like I normally do. Are there 120 million single people in the US? Probably. It's hard to say. There's like 300 and something million. So it's hard to say. Well, Angela's single, and I'm single for that matter, too. So, Angela and Ellie, what recorded videos would you like to see me make a video on? A topic you would like to see me make a video on? Because that way I can be more precise. These live streams are more for Q&A, just like chatting. But in terms of strictly informational, I can do better when I actually have like one topic and I just dive deep into it. That's how I see it, Ellie. I've been single for over 10 years now. And yeah, I've dated and done whatever, but I don't really call that not being single. Not until you're either in a very committed relationship or engaged are you not single. That's what I would say. Oh, it's good to see the comment section come together here. I like that. Though I am missing George, Rhodes. Who else? There's a few more. There's a few more that used to be here that maybe I need to be more consistent with my start times and people will remember. How about that? But we'll see though. Or maybe George has some Ethel. Welcome. Kevin says, I didn't really see my dad as a narcissist. He could act very humble and very selfless, but he wanted his ego. I know that. That makes sense. I would like videos about how to deal with competitive and jealous people. That's a good topic, Angela. I like that. What else was I talking about recently? Narcissistic families. Curious one. How are you? Welcome. Welcome back. Jared, I will think about some topics and tell you in the next live. That sounds like a plan. I think oh, you are, Cat Wild. I was just talking to you. I forget what video that was under, but I remember you commenting. I think it was a previous live. I'll be curious. Do those other lives, do they pop up for people, or are they something that you seek out? I used to always want to live in Europe. That's where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Spain or Portugal. But you got to get everything's about in America. You got to get your dollars straight. Oh, that's what I was going to do. The narcissistic family videos, whether it's a narcissistic mother and enabler father, narcissistic father, enabler mother, the enmeshment videos, parentification videos, golden child, black sheep, scapegoat, lost child, glass child. There's so many combinations. Because even people that didn't have a romantic relationship with a narcissist, a lot of people had some pretty toxic upbringings. And that's something someone said to me the other day, too. They said, did everyone have a toxic upbringing? Or did everyone have a little bit of dysfunction? And I would say, sure. I'm sure a lot of families had a degree of dysfunction, but that's not to say that some were not much worse than others. They were. Like some are night and day bad versus just a little bit of dysfunction. Okay, no one's perfect. But the dysfunction of a narcissistic family or someone who has borderline, that's wild. Or an addiction problem. And actually, addiction is one of the things that causes the most havoc on families, I would say. Ethel says, I deal with my crazy ex narcissist hacking and spreading rumors about me. I try to push them out, and your videos help me understand narcissist. Wow, I'm happy to help. What can I say? Kevin says, Angela, that sounds very interesting. Something I haven't focused on really even known of. Ellie says, estrangement and alienation in children is a flavor I have been contemplating. What do you mean by that, though? When they estrange themselves from a toxic parent, or when a toxic parent estranges themselves from kids? Because I have seen both. I mean, a lot of times we talk about how it's the kids going no contact from a narcissistic parent. Yes, hot tamales, welcome. There certainly are. Addiction is downplayed in family systems. Yes. It gets swept under the rug. Booze, booze and addiction. I mean, because booze is the socially acceptable drug. Now, getting drunk isn't necessarily socially acceptable, and it's definitely not socially acceptable to drink and drive, but there's no shortage of that happening. Angela says the problem of too many single people is all over the world. There is no escape, Kevin. Japan is another example. They have herbivores in Japan. Vakinen explained to me why capitalism is a shared delusion. He did explain to you? I think Sam Vaknin, he's like a socialist bent, right? Capitalism, there's a lot of exploitation in capitalism because that's where profit comes from. You have to extract more than you give in order to have a business. You pay your employees, but you're getting more out of them than you are paying them. That is the exploitative nature. Some addictions change character completely. Yes, they do. Many single in China, but they messed with the birth. Yeah, they had the one-child policy. Parentification and infantilization explains many problems. Yes, it does. More for me, it was more being over-controlled. I wasn't necessarily parentified. It was more infantilization, like we talked about yesterday. I don't know, maybe I was addicted to the idea of revolution, but there isn't really another solution. I hope it's peaceful. Name me a peaceful revolution, though, Kevin. Does that happen? I don't think so. I think most revolutions are fairly violent and have a fair amount of bloodshed. But that's the big thing. When you try to get behind a big thing like that, you can be pretty passionate about that. It's a good purpose. You have some purpose. And whether people agree with that purpose or not, that's a different story. Being intoxicated is being in a state of narcissism. Very similar, at the very least. Kevin Tui, well, since I had a strong, dominating father, I guess I could rent a fight in my following relationships, and that is horrible. One of them was the master's degree in art therapy, the kidnapper. I get it. Dominating father can certainly cause its issues. Because usually with that, the kid either becomes like his father or the opposite. That's generally what I see happen. Or, despite their best efforts, they try not to be like their father, but then by hook or by crook, they do. By hook or by crook, they become like their father. Now, I understood. That's what you see a lot, right? I mean, parentify. Okay. Ethel says last year they had hacked my money and they said they put cameras in my house. Now I don't know, but I got a lot of itching all over my body and mainly my nose. That's not too good. What do you think they did? Did they bug it? Did they do something to it? I don't know. Not too good. I'll say that. Oh, while you're all here, you can definitely like the video while you're here. And also bring your friends next time you float around here too. We have a little more of a community going. all narcissists use the same language and behaviors and they don't know each other, don't you think that it's the evidence of demonic possession? I think it's evidence of a brain structure that's similar, and I think there's a spiritual dark entity that many of them may have. And it's the same reason that so many addicts and alcoholics are so similar when they're using, because they are possessed by the spirit. That's alcohol is called a spirit, but they're possessed by the spirit of drugs or alcohol, which is one of the reasons why so many people that struggle with addictions can relate to each other so well. So it's like a version. It's a version of possession, I would say. It's a version of it. Narcs are of a cult. Yeah, I could see that. Take your time, Kevin. It is hard to communicate with texting. Sure. Satan's army, like the orcs, like J.R.R. Tolkien would say the orcs, the Orokai. Yeah, it's always like they've read the same textbooks, right? Many of them say all of the same things and they approach things in many of the same ways. When I get hate in a comment section, so many people act in the same ways and say the same kinds of things. Now, I get you. What helped me with alcohol, curious one, was the hangovers. I couldn't do it anymore. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd probably love a few drinks every now and again. I just haven't. Low to no empathy, deceptive, exploitative, dominating. Correct. It's the cult of abusive people who pretend to be perfect. Yes. Curious one, I've seen a lot recover in Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's not that simple. Many don't make it. I can tell you are worth it. It's nice for you to say. I mean, they say in Alcoholics Anonymous, it works if you work it. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't follow the steps. They don't do the steps. They don't get a sponsor. They don't have humility. They're not honest. And then they're surprised when they relapse. Control and power is pure evil. The Jezebel spirit. That's why they say narcissistic women. Ethel says, I mean, sometimes it doesn't happen every day. Sometimes I have good days where nobody bothers me. So, but a lot from the past, but every day I look at myself and say, I'm a good person. It's positive self-talk's very good. Here's some backlash I got today. I uploaded on TikTok a video I made a little while ago, a couple of years ago, probably now. When the narcissist says, I just want peace. And I had said, usually when they say that, if you've confronted them about something or you're trying to be assertive, they're just trying to deflect and trying to make it seem like you're the problem. You're the one costing them their peace. And it's just a manipulation tactic. It's a manipulation tactic to avoid accountability. And what someone said to me was, and can you get this? They said, oh, do you have research on this? It's like, what? You need research to call out a manipulation tactic? But that's a manipulation tactic in itself, to try to get me to cite evidence or research for a behavioral observation. It's like, no. Like, no one's going to do a study on the phrase, I just want peace. Why? Because it will mean different things depending on the context in which it's used. And then other people, of course, say, oh, I say I just want peace. Does that mean I'm a narcissist? No. It all depends on the context. The context in which it's used determines everything. There are many narcissistic demons like Leviathan, Ahab, Melissa. Sure, that's all true, Angela. So, but people really struggle with the more than one thing being true at the same time. So many people, I'll say, oh, when the narcissist says this, and people will be like, oh, if I say that phrase, it means I'm a narcissist? No, that's not what it means. I'm saying when a narcissist says that phrase, this is what they're doing. They are trying to manipulate you to avoid accountability and guilt trip you and make it seem like you're the problem. But people really struggle with that. And then this guy, I said to him, no, you don't need research to call out a manipulation tactic. It's foolish to think you do. And the fact that I said it was foolish, she was like, oh, that's an extremely toxic thing to say. You're just wounded. I was like, dude, I know what you're doing. Who asks for research about a phrase? Nobody. But they know what they're doing. Yeah. And when narcissists say that, it's a bunch of BS, right? They just want to avoid accountability. Yeah, they want a piece is right, Allie, right? AA didn't work for me. I tried other paradigms or programs too. I hate myself for not getting better. Well, there's supplements that maybe you could try that might help you a little bit, or even trade offs. I know a lot of people use like things like kratom to stop drinking. Now it's kind of trading one addiction for the other, but generally, kratom is better for you than alcohol. Alcohol is hard in the body. There is research on that. Cite NPD emotional abuse tactics. Cite general research. Well, do they go over that specific phrase? But because even so, if they even use that phrase, like people shouldn't need a study to call out a manipulation tactic. Like that's not, no. Like you have to be able to use your head sometimes. You can't just outsource everything to, oh, I need to read it in a peer reviewed journal before I believe it. I need to read it in this. It's like, that's true in bold scientific claims, but in pointing out manipulation or abuse, that's a different ballgame. The only three faces of narcissists: charm, manipulate, manage, image, victim, rage. Got to read that again. The only three faces. No, you're right about that, Alex. You may just throw them something, because you know what they'll do when you throw them something? They'll say, oh, but it didn't mention this phrase specifically. It's like, yeah, duh. But they're doing what they're doing not because they want an answer. They're just trying to find a way to make it to discredit what I'm saying and invalidate what I'm saying. And when I say that, they're like, oh, you're only saying that because you're wounded. It's like, oh, give me a break. Never unmask an artist. Yeah, I don't ever recommend unmasking them. I don't ever recommend telling them to their face they're a narcissist. It doesn't do any good. Of course they are. You should take it. You'd be amused by it. Sometimes I talk to them to give people examples in the comment section. Like, okay, this is what it is. See if the people who follow me can follow along and see what's going on. Dr. Joseph on YouTube talks about the importance of physical health that is overlooked often in behavioral health and psychiatry. Yeah, I agree with that. I think mind, body, spirit, they are interconnected. And our system, it focuses way too much on one element at a time. So if you don't go to a personal trainer, your therapist probably isn't going to talk to you too much about your physical health. Even your general practitioner probably won't that much. They might say to you, if you're obese, oh, you might need to lose some weight. But there's a far gap between obese and then still out of shape. You might not be obese, but you can be out of shape. Meant to say, a narc. I love feeling to watch the face of a narc. Oh, I get what you're saying. But I'm big into the mind, body, spirit part and the emotional health. And there's many aspects of that. There's your community, your sense of purpose, your sense of spirituality. And that's what they say addiction is. Addiction, like drug and alcohol addiction, it's seeking spirituality in a negative way. And I would say that's accurate. Ellis says, one, Dr. Joseph is excellent to understand addictions and the use of tapering. Has he got a big YouTube channel? Maybe I should invite him on. Let's see what he's all about. Dr. Joseph. 147,000. Yeah, he might come on. Let's look at the views that he gets. That's kind of discouraging, actually. So, like 10 hours ago, he's got a video: psychedelics versus antidepressants. Psychiatrist reacts to most popular antidepressant TikToks. I trusted the doctors. I nearly died. I can relate to that. They used to put me on antipsychotics. Yeah, I'm looking at them now, Ellie. There's 3 stages you go through on antidepressants. Now I'll invite him on. It's your birthday. Well, happy birthday to you. You're about 7 months older than me. I just turned 40 March 3rd. So this is August 28th. Got anything fun planned for your birthday? Invite him if you can. His criticism of psychiatry is interesting and refreshing. Yeah, I'll definitely invite him on. I'm trying to expand the topics here and not just narcissism. I did a little bit with that woman, Chelsea, whose brother was charged with a crime. I mean, it was interesting a little bit, but people weren't as interested in the other aspects of it. So that was that. So I had the one, and then I didn't upload more. But there was more. There was more to upload. It was just, if people aren't going to be interested, they're not interested. So I got Dr. Joseph and Matteo. What the heck's his name? Mattis. Mattis's Handazar. Well, I'm not going to invite him on. I'm just going to rip him. YouTube interviews. Dr. Joseph. There you go. I think he sounds right up my alley because I'm not into psychiatry at all. I'm all into all natural. That's me. The cowboy priest. We'll write him down too. I like it. I love the suggestions. Keep them coming. Because as far as this channel goes, the interviews are the best for my business. Because I get more coaching. I guess I get coaching people from Instagram and Facebook mostly. Occasionally YouTube, but usually those two. But interviews are the things that people watch the most of me here. Volume I get more with shorts, but in terms of the longer ones, interviews, but they're also longer conversations. Party tomorrow afternoon, huh? That's cool. Tapering from addiction is core. Yeah, check them out, Kevin, when you get the chance. Yeah, I'm going to invite all of these people on, and I can have a good conversation with them. Saying I'm glad people like Christian too, for the most part. Nelly the narcissist, Nelly the rapper, or Nelly somebody else? Nelly not a narcissist. I guess I'm confused. Is that her name, Nelly the narcissist? But she's not a narcissist. Like, let's see. Oh, I see. Nelly, not the narcissist. I see. That was confusing. Is she a professional of sorts? What is she? So she's fairly popular for being so new. How did she do that? Like her first video is a little over a year ago, and even her first video has got 6.5 thousand views. Yeah, Christian's cool. I like him. She was in a relationship. See her shirt where she sells shirts and merch. Hmm. Well, I'll invite her on too. I'll invite them all. My friend Melanie Amadine, she's also from England. Men's shorts. Oh, I see. I mean, I do a lot of shorts too. But also, it's like my longer form is just so I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but the algorithm doesn't like my longer ones unless I'm doing an interview. They used to like them more a few years ago when I used to talk more about specific dating circumstances. It would be different. I guess humor is big too. Yeah, humor and entertainment goes a far way. I'll definitely give you that. But I got some good suggestions here, so I'm glad you all told me about these. So I got a few more people to invite. And last call here for other longer video topics that won't be alive, as opposed to just shorts too. Because shorts is good, bite-sized, but I can go more in depth in a longer recorded video, and it will be more precise. That's the plan, curious one. I keep on rolling out. The Facebook algorithm treats me better. Not as much Instagram anymore, but Facebook does. But we'll see. Keep the flowers. Got to send them the flowers, as they say, right? But all right. I'm going to shut it down here for tonight. I'm rambling now. But I appreciate you all joining here. Again, like the video on your way out the door. Because you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, as they say. Of course, Ellie. I'm glad you're feeling better today. And happy birthday to Ethel. Kevin, keep your chin up over there. Dr. Joseph, interesting video on the pharmaceutical company's marketing. America's the only company, curious one. America's the only place that has pharmaceuticals allowed to, or pharmaceutical companies allowed to advertise. Other countries don't do that. Europe, Australia, there's none of that. But America, that's privatized medicine for you. Phil Bradley, you got one in just under the gun here. A hoorah, just under the gun. I love it. I love it. And I love the interview suggestions here too, because they seem to be some of the fan favorites, we'll say. They get the best of both worlds, right? We can talk about some topics and get someone else's perspective and they can bounce it off of my perspective. Because I've got a broad range of things that I know a decent amount about. The difference with me is I'm not like a full-blown massive expert in one big thing. The closest to that being true is with narcissism, but I'm still no licensed professional in narcissism. I'm not some Dr. Ramani or someone else who specializes in that way, who gets peer-reviewed papers and whatever, people citing my work. No. Narcissism in the dark work got me to question the false objects I made in my own head. Good. Baby steps is right. You know I'm going to keep on bouncing. And your father, the dominating father, you got to watch out for that, right? Definitely got to watch out for that. I had a overbearing father like that. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciated all your comments on the videos too. I did see them. So I definitely appreciate that. Appreciate all of your comments in the videos as well. They always help. Comments help and likes help. Absolutely. You're honest, you care, Kevin. Don't be hard on yourself. A sound suggestion, a curious one. That's a sound suggestion. A wise suggestion too. But all right. Time to rock and roll here. My power levels are going down. So over and out, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks for chatting. Until next time. Yeah, that makes sense. Not just you. Good night, everybody. Good night, Alex, Jan, Ellie, Kevin, Curious One, Melissa.